Since picking up my copy of Starfield last week, I've been playing it whenever I can, and I am currently about 30 hours in, and to start I have to say I am very much enjoying myself, but in all honesty it did take me a few hours to get there, and I'm going to go over why in today's video. I'm currently playing Starfield on the Xbox Series X, and I would have preferred to have started it on the PC, but I don't think my computer would be able to run Starfield at the graphics I want to, so the Series X is a decent compromise, and I have been enjoying playing it on that so far. Bethesda have been under a microscope with Starfield from nearly every angle to deliver something that is polished, works, and is enjoyable to play, something that will capture the essence of a classic Bethesda title. I've heard the term Skyrim in space from a lot of folk, and while I understand that sentiment, it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. I'd kind of hoped that it would be something more than that, being that we can travel the stars. I'd hoped Bethesda would push the envelope and wow me with their take on space exploration. After a couple of hours, I was disabused of that expectation very quickly, and I won't lie, I was disappointed. But then once I adjusted my gameplay and began to play more and stopped gurning about what I'd wanted, I started to find I was very much enjoying myself, because what Bethesda has created here is a game I can honestly see me playing through multiple times over many, many years to come. When Bethesda first announced the delay to September in order to polish the game, I started to hope that Starfield would launch almost bug-free, and I have to say, well done Bethesda. This has got to be one of the cleanest launches of a Bethesda title I can remember, and I'm old. I've had zero crashes in the time I've played, and only a couple of very minor bugs that really haven't affected my gameplay at all, which surprised me a lot because I've certainly become someone who expects games to be released broken and been jaded with the whole gaming industry as a whole. So this was honestly such a relief that the issues I had were so relatively minor, like a floating rock here, a weird companion barn dance, a mission not activating properly until I went to space and landed again. There's been no incomplete quests, no gameplay breaking glitches, and no crashes so far. But it's not all been completely clean sailing. While the game's been working pretty smoothly for me, an issue did crop up that started to irk me. Lighting. Now, I'm not a massively technical person these days, and I'm not sure if this is an issue unique to me, but I started to notice that the lighting in a lot of the game started to give me the feeling of being flashbanged in the face, and then it would settle down and it would be fine. So I thought to myself, I'll just adjust it. I'll adjust it in the game settings and lower the brightness a bit. Except there is no brightness slider, or a contrast slider. This was a bit annoying to say the least, and I'm still trying to sort it out, but it's such a minor issue, so I'm not letting it bother me too much, but sometimes it does start to blur out details I'm trying to look at, especially indoors. The game has really been running smoothly, and while I know it's locked to 30 frames on the Xbox, it really hasn't affected my enjoyment of the game at all. I've had no frame tearing or FPS drops at all. It's been butterly smooth the entire time I've played it. If they would just allow me a way of adjusting the brightness, I'd be really, really happy. Now let's have a bit of a closer look at the gameplay itself and the mechanics. Now I'm very much enjoying most of what they've done. Combat is fun, I quite enjoy the digipicking minigame. It's quite a nice puzzle, but I can see some folks getting bored of it quite quickly. I enjoy the persuasion game way more than I expected, but not everything was plain sailing for me at the start. The game starts like a usual Bethesda game with a nice easing into some core mechanics, then it pretty much opens up to being follow the story or don't, it's your choice. The main quest is right there for you to dive headlong into if you wish, and also to completely ignore it if you really want to go off and explore the settled systems. I opted to carry on the main quest, and I quickly found myself getting a little overwhelmed trying to, as a good friend perfectly pointed it out, chase the dot. I found that a lot of quests have you yo-yoing between 2 points, and I started using the fast travel system way more than I would have liked. Because if there is one thing you'll start to experience in Starfield a lot is loading screens. They aren't long ones, but the frequency of them had me getting frustrated, especially since I was going between 2 points. Quite often it was pick up a quest, then out an airlock, loading screen, run to the ship, climb aboard, loading, take off, loading, get to space and choose destination, loading, dock, loading, talk, then get sent back and go through all the same loading screens in reverse. But then the quest would send me back on the same route again, and it was frustrating. But then I stopped chasing the dot. and I started to slow down and breathe in what was going on around me. I started to explore more, and it was fantastic. There's so much going on that in my rush from place to place, I was missing out on opportunities to find interesting things tucked away and not having any missions selected, but knowing I'm going there and stopping to take in the sights along the way. I realised I'd been playing the game wrong from the start. Not saying there is a right or wrong way to play, but the wrong way for me to play. I'm not in a sprint, I'm enjoying a leisurely stroll. Taking the time to stop and chat to the plethora of named PCs or naughtily eavesdropping brought me a lot more enjoyment than I thought it would, and opened up some quest lines that I hadn't even known about despite passing through the areas multiple times. I found myself experiencing less loading screens, and with that I found my enjoyment increasing each time I travelled around the settled systems. One of the reasons I started to enjoy myself more, the dialogue system is wonderful. Honestly, I've really enjoyed chatting to companions and NPCs, and the persuasion minigame, as I said, I've enjoyed way more than I thought. The fact our character isn't voiced has really allowed me to choose what I want to say as I read it on the screen, and because it's not voiced, the options are quite often far more than I'd have expected, and has allowed me to start thinking about what other characters I'd like to create. I'd look at the options and think, ooh, this current character wouldn't say that, but a wisecracking 3-star ranger with a shoot first, ask questions later attitude would definitely say that, and I have really loved the fact that just the dialogue available has shown me how much replayability this game will have. I've also liked that sticking to my character's morals and standards means that some persuasion checks means I fail them because I wouldn't say certain things. That opens up to some interesting moments that wouldn't happen because I cheated the persuasion game. Now I want to talk about the skill system in the game, because I feel they've done a really good job here, with one really small but I feel very important caveat that they don't mention in-game at all. The skills bring a great mix from Bethesda's older titles, and it really works here, combining Fallout skill points with Elder Scrolls skills improved by using them. You can choose the first rank of a skill, but to move up ranks with further skill points, you have to use the skills and complete the challenges. It's great, it's so much fun. What the game doesn't tell you is there are certain skills you need to unlock before you can use basic game skills, like the jump pack. Unless you get rank 1 of the boost pack training, you cannot boost at all, which I discovered after getting my boost pack, and the quest said, boost, so I jumped off a ledge, and fell, and ended up with my first in-game injury. Stealthing is the same. If you want the stealth bar like Skyrim, you have to first choose the first rank in stealth, otherwise you can crouch and stealth, but you won't be able to tell you're being detected. There's a couple others like that in this game that will ask you to do something, and it doesn't even state that you need to learn the skill at all. My only complaint about the skill system at all. Otherwise, it really is great and full of potential replayability. Now, moving on to the companions, and for me, anyway, Bethesda have knocked it out of the park here when it comes to dialogue and interactions. The AI leaves a bit to be desired though. The amount of times my companion pops their head right in front of me while I'm aiming is just insane, and if not standing in front of me while shooting or mining, then when in combat they go sprinting off, hurling some comedic line before screaming at me that they're getting shot in the face. But having a companion with me has been a much better experience in Starfield than other Bethesda games. I just wish their AI was slightly better. I mean, it does make for some amusing combat experiences, but I mean, it's a minor niggle for me when it comes to how much the companions have brought to the game. Which is actually crazy when the enemy AI seems to be a hell of a lot better. They take cover, they shoot, they move, they flank, they run away and relocate. Combat in Starfield has been such fun thanks to the enemy's AI. They don't just all run blindly at you. I mean, the melee ones do, and I got caught out a few times by them not just sitting there letting me shotgun them in the face, and instead I found them taking cover somewhere else and shotgunning me instead. Firefights can be frantic and close, and I think the enemy AI elevates it to just making it that much more enjoyable, which is just weird when I think just how daft the companion AI can be, when the enemy AI seems to make so much better combat decisions. I just wonder like what their thinking was at this point in time. Okay, so this next bit it's major, and I don't even know how to approach this properly, but I mean, I don't want to say it's an issue. I mean, it was a personal expectation, but for me, the exploration side of Starfield, yeah. Like, I love exploration games. And I apologise in advance if this comes off, you know, as a bit ranty. But I do. I love exploration games. I love hunting out places and viewpoints to take in the scenery. And when I first saw the message saying, you can't go this way, I'll admit I was a little bit disappointed. I'd hoped that if you can see it, you can go there. It was really like that, but it really just isn't. I'd have been much happier with an invisible wall that came up with, you're leaving this zone to move to another zone, and we got a wee loading screen, but it just doesn't work that way in Starfield. It was a shame, but I did get over that pretty quickly. And also, despite there being plenty of water, there is the loosest, most annoying definition of swimming. I mean, you swim, but there's no diving or going underwater that I've come across so far anyway, and that was a bit disappointing too. I thought we might at least be able to, you know, find a fish. Exploring in 0G though was so much fun. Oh, I loved it. Just boosting around like I was Superman and flying through things. Like exploring on a low gravity or zero gravity planet was so much more fun than a planet with a heavier gravity. While I was disappointed with, you know, that kind of exploration bit though, my biggest disappointment was once I got into space. It's just not that exciting. I mean, you're in orbit around a planet and there's really not much to do. You can't travel freely around a planet or to another planet. It's a loading screen, which, you know, it does usually look cool when it's doing, you know, you're flying through space, but it just made me feel like space is just a tacked on part of the game, really. There's not been anything to really explore out there, and it's just the background in which the game is set. It's a field of stars that just offers nothing to discover between star systems or even in solar system. And I'd kind of hoped that there might just be kind of like that Star Trek exploration, I guess, that we've seen in other games, and there's just nothing really there. If there's nothing around a planet's orbit when you load in, then there's nothing really to do except land. I mean, otherwise, when you get into a orbit around a planet, it's either there's rocks you can shoot for resources or enemies to shoot. I mean, you sometimes meet friendly, you know, craft and you'll get like a transmission and share a joke or something like that, but it really, I think we've been spoiled with space exploration games, things like Elite Dangerous and No Man's Sky, that I didn't expect it to be exactly like that, but I just felt that there should have been more. You know, I wanted to maybe see, I mean, there's no scanner in space, you know, for like spatial anomalies or anything like that. You scan the planet, and that's really about it. There's nothing else really going on, you know, aside from maybe rocks or combat. Yeah. And I know what people are going to say. I mean, space is empty. Space is so empty. And I know it is. It's just one of those things that I think I had an expectation that there might at least be something we could discover out there. Like a nebula or a black hole or, you know, I mean, geez, a Dyson sphere. No, I don't know what I expected, to be honest. And that's probably my own fault for thinking like that. But I just really hope that when we got out into space, I mean, you can't even scan the asteroids to see if there's any decent resources to mine. You just shoot them and boom, you collect the resources. You don't even know what you're shooting at. You don't know, can I mine this rock for a resource that I need? Oh no, it's a different resource. Should I try shooting another one? Yeah, it's my own fault for my expectation there. That's on me, but it is something I feel is just lacking in the game. I really do. It's yeah, I'm coming off as ranty. Yeah, we'll move on to the next bit. And now, quickly, while we're on the topic of space, ship combat. It's simple. It's to the point, and that's about it. The controls are a little bit weird and took me a bit to get used to, but after that, it really is. It's just shoot lasers at shields, shoot ballistics for to hit the ship, blow it up or board it. My current playthrough, I'm not really a pirate, so I may feel differently about it with a different playstyle, but for now I'm kind of like, well, it's there. Okay, so what else do we need to talk about? Check notes. Right, okay, cool. Character creation. Yeah, character creation is great. It's got so much scope for so many playthroughs, and it's exactly what I'd hoped for in a Bethesda game. My first time using it, it took a long time to make my character because there's so many different choices. But the great thing was it had me thinking of multiple different characters before I'd even got to play the game. So right there, that's a win from me. The loot system and gear you can collect is a pretty standard Bethesda affair, and I was quickly inundated with choices of different weapons and suits, and I loved trying out lots of different things. There's a lot of choice in Starfield, and it gives so many options for different playstyles. My biggest complaint about it was half the time I had no idea what I was picking up, because it's just a text box with a name written in it. Is it a gun? A knife? Is it resources? Is it trash? In the beginning, who knows, but I started to learn what was what pretty quick. But every time I saw a new word, I had no idea what it was I was looting until I looked in my inventory, so I spent a lot of time picking up stuff and then dropping it. Another peeve was books. Did it really need to be a black box with text? It's a book. Come on, Bethesda. We've all played Skyrim. We know you can do books. Also, the inventory system needs a much better breakdown to show different things. For example, just in the aid tab, you know, like everything's in there, but I should be able to look, can I find food or drugs or medicine? Like when I'm looking for a bandage to heal up a wound, I don't want to be scrolling for ages to find a bandage. I can definitely see mods being used to make a much, much better inventory system. Okay, here's a fun one. The shipbuilding system is so much fun. I've only played about with it a little, and I tried to make something before I realised I was breaking the in-game rules and my ship wouldn't fly. But also, I was a broke-ass character who didn't have the money to build what I wanted, so I can see it being much more fun later game with more credits to build the ship that I want. So do I go for the Normandy or Serenity or Rocinante? These are the big questions. And, you know, it's... I mean, your limit is your imagination, I really guess. It's just, it can get pretty expensive, and as I said, there are rules that you have to follow in order to be able to allow your ship to fly. Same goes for outpost building. Early game, you're very limited, but from what I've seen, you're going to be able to set up quite an empire to make some credits with once you've unlocked all the needed skills. But for now, my little bases are places for me to send folk to, as ship space is limited, and at the moment, getting all the needed resources to build it up is slow. Looking at you, aluminium and Z-wire. The last bit I'm going to mention here, I've rambled about this in a previous video, and my opinions still haven't changed. It's the game's HUD. I mean, it's there, it's functional, but there's no options to change its layout or anything, and my complaints are still here. I don't want an XP bar in the middle of my screen. And I don't want a massive banner showing up whenever I discover a new place, especially when I'm in combat. It's just, it is really annoying. It's so distracting. I mean, that is like, my center of view, I don't want anything cluttering that. You know, stick it in a corner somewhere. I really don't care for the massive big banner, and I do not care for the tiny little XP bar. Get them to the side. I mean, the sooner a mod comes out that can do that, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Alright then, that's it. That's my honest and initial opinion of the game 30 hours in, and to be frank, I'm not sure I can even give it a proper review right now. I've kept this as spoiler free as I possibly can and covered what I think about it so far, but I feel I've not even scratched the surface of the game. It's just absolutely huge, and I keep discovering new things and enjoyment along the way. What I can see, though, is it's already showing me I'm going to be playing a second, third, fourth, and more playthroughs. And that's before there's even mods out there that I want for the game. I can easily imagine Starfield replicating Skyrim, and that mods make the game even more replayable, and the game becomes so replayable thanks to the availability of mods. I'm certainly excited to see what the community brings out. Now, I'm going to stop waffling here and get back to playing the game, because honestly, there's a part of me that's annoyed that I wanted to stop playing to make a video. Not that I really needed to make a video, but I wanted to, and I think I'll be back next with a more spoiler review once I've played the game more and I start a new playthrough to upload to the channel. So, if you want to see that when it comes out, feel free to like and sub to the channel and leave a comment on how you're finding the game, but I'd ask that you keep the comments spoiler free from now, as the game fully releases on the 6th, which if I can get this video out when I want, is tomorrow. So from me, that is it for today. I hope you all have a lovely day. I hope you all enjoy playing the game when you get it, and I will see you on the other side. Take care.